So there we looked at how mobile phones are changing India. One thing the country needs more than ever before is energy to support its rapidly growing economy. But India is a signatory to the Paris Climate Change Agreement, which means 40% of the power it uses needs to come from clean sources by 2030. Now, there's no dearth of sunshine in this country, and so India has set ambitious targets for solar power generation. In fact, it's now one of the fastest growing solar markets in the world. I went to one of the first places in the country to have large-scale solar projects, Pavagada, an area near India's tech capital Bangalore. It's seen as a model for the rest of India. What used to be dry, barren land in the southern state of Karnataka is now covered with millions of solar panels. This is one of the biggest such parks in the world. Thousands of farmers leased out fields they struggle to grow crops in, allowing power companies to harvest energy instead. Several firms have set up plants here. This one belongs to Finnish company Fortum.
Around 60 gigawatts of solar.
The firm's boss tells me that India contributes a significant chunk of the total solar power added in the world each year.
In India alone, around 15 gigawatts would be added, which is practically 25% of the whole solar capacity which gets installed. So that's huge for a country like India.
India's push towards solar energy may have started later than many other nations, but it's now moving at a frantic pace. And it's not just large solar farms. Rooftop installations are also growing popular. In a country where electricity from traditional distribution networks is often unreliable and patchy, it would make sense for factories to have their own solar energy on the rooftops. But the point at which this went from being an idea to something executed in reality was about 3 years ago, when the cost of power generated from the sun became cheaper than that from conventional energy sources. These solar panels were set up about a year ago. They power the factory below. Nearly 90% of the machines here work on electricity generated from sunlight, manufacturing fertilizer bags. The company's power costs have gone down by a third. Now, while solar energy might be cheaper in the long term, it costs a lot of money to set up a power station. Firms say they need more support to make the switch.
Banks don't give loans for solar energy plants. I had approached a bank for money to help me build this power station, but they turned me down saying it's not a tried and tested mechanism. I finally funded it myself, but not everyone has that kind of cash available.
Recently, the government also announced that it plans to impose duties on imported solar panels. Nearly 90% come from overseas. While domestic panel makers could benefit, costs will rise for a majority of players who rely on those imports. It could cast a shadow on a sector that requires companies to make large investments and take big risks.